The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Manley, and I'm the Compliance Officer at ISAC. I'd like to welcome you to a webinar about the State of Iowa Security Operations Center. Jesse Martinez will be our speaker today. Jesse is the Cybersecurity Services Coordinator for the Iowa Office of the Chief Information Officer, Information Security Division. He's been working for the state for 13 years. Jesse has been helping to deploy and maintain cybersecurity services funded by the Homeland Security Grant Program for the last 3 years. Jesse will be taking questions throughout the presentation, so feel free to submit those using the chat function at any point. And now I will hand it off to Jesse. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to verify that audio is still working for me.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thanks again. Really appreciate you guys joining me today for this presentation about the Security Operations Center. As I mentioned, I do work with the OCIO in the Information Security Division. We have our SOC located in Des Moines. So I just wanted to go over some of those things, and I've got kind of an agenda here. I'll apologize in advance. I just found this like laser pointer feature of Google Slides. So I'm going to be using that a lot. So hopefully nobody has any motion sickness issues like I do. So I'll try to be careful with that. Here's kind of a brief agenda. So really just 4 things that I wanted to cover. Kind of the SOC in general, just how it works, some of the things that we're working on, our processes, staffing, things like that, just to kind of get you guys familiar again with what exactly it is what we do there. The Homeland Security Grant Program, so that provides the funding for the services that we are able to get to the counties. So I wanted to go over that a little bit. And then the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU that came out recently between the OCIO and the counties, just kind of cover that real quick. And then Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So I just wanted to go over some resources, some things that are available, kind of highlight some stuff. There's a ton of information that we could do on that. So I just wanted to pull out a few key things that we can look at so we're not overloaded with too much information. So with that, I will get started. So this is the Hoover Building in Des Moines on the Capitol Complex. And this is where the Security Operations Center used to be as of a couple of years ago. So this is where we started. So we were not in the basement. We were actually in the sub-basement. So kind of 2 levels underground. And with that comes the potential for things to happen that happen in regular basements in our homes. So we had a flood, a bunch of rain, came in over the summer, and it just, because of the way the building was constructed and landscaping and all that kind of stuff, water got in. There was not a lot of things like affected that we saw things like drop or anything like that. It was just enough that it it started to make working in that environment not good. We had humidifiers and things like that. So long story short, that got a lot of water in there, and so we had to move out of there. And we moved into the Lucas Building on the Capitol Complex in Des Moines. And we actually moved from the basement to the top floor. So we were up here in this area, 6th floor of the Lucas Building. It was a temporary location, but it worked out really well for us. There used to be a cafeteria in there, so it was a really big open area. So we moved all of our stuff over, our people, the SOC wall, things like that, and we were able to operate out of there for about a year. And then we, so this is where we are now, kinda. This is in the East Village, so this is down the road from the Capitol. This is what the kids call the hip part of town. When I grew up, there used to be just a bunch of warehouses and things like that, and it was kind of the scary part of Des Moines. But now it's a lot more modern. There's some really nice things down there. So this is 200 East Grand. If you go in this door where my laser pointer is, you'll see our nice receptionist, Tara, and then you'll go down a hallway, and off to the left back here will be the Security Operations Center. So I say kind of because the pandemic and things of that nature hit, and so in the process of moving, we went remote, kind of like everybody else did. So currently, we are mostly working remotely from home. We do have everything functional in the building. So there are times when we go in there and work on projects and things of that nature. We have interns and some trainings that we do to kind of help us, move forward on some things. So it's good to have that as a resource. But at the moment, we are kind of on a voluntary basis of going in the office until around the first of the year, and then we'll reevaluate some things. So just wanted to get you guys kind of up to speed on what that looked like as far as where we are located. So when we opened the SOC initially in the Hoover building, we had a lot of tours and people coming in to kind of look at the SOC wall and some of the technology and things like that. We will do that again. We do have everything in this more permanent location, but just because of the way of the world right now, this is the situation. And again, so I've got this fancy PowerPoint slide. So as we go, if you have any questions or anything, just go ahead and let me know, and I'll try to handle those. I think I can figure out how to do that in this platform, but if I'm a little slow, I'm sure that Beth or somebody will help me. So one thing I wanted to highlight, so we had to move buildings and we had to move technology and stuff like that. So we do have a COOP plan, so continuity of operations and continuity of government, and an incident response plan too. So these are some of the things that we've kind of stressed before too. I know Secretary of State has talked about this. We had some workshops and things like that. So I just want to let you guys know that we do, the things that we advise. We take our own advice and our own medicine, that kind of thing. So we had people adversely affected. So there were work areas where people literally could not work because there was water damage, things of that nature, equipment and stuff like that. IT and comms, not exactly adversely affected. We went to some of our backup stuff, which is in Joint Forces Headquarters, JFHQ for short. So everything worked. We didn't really drop any services, but it wasn't our primary line. So we wanted to keep the primary things and get those back online, which we've done, but that was impacted. And then other facilities, we had to find somewhere to move, close to 100 or 200 people to start working. So that was what we did, kind of go into the Lucas building temporarily, and then bigger scale, with the pandemic, moving home and things of that nature, VPN, stuff like that. So this is just kind of a sample matrix of how those things work. But having that plan in place really helped us be flexible and not miss any steps and things we were trying to accomplish. So I just wanted to kind of highlight a few of those things. So our SOC staff, this is a really general outline of what we look like. We have the SOC manager, who's Dan Powers, and then we have security engineers, we have a compliance officer, we have SOC analysts, we have outreach, which is where I land, and then we have interns. So we operate from 7 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have looked at 24/7 operations. We just haven't landed on a model yet. There's a couple of different ways we could do that with full-time staff or augment that with maybe a third-party service. We just haven't landed on the one that would be the most financially prudent and that kind of thing, or what that would look like during the off hours. Having people contacted during the third shift, how that would go too. So right now, what we have is a duty officer, duty manager role, which is kind of a rotating phone between some of the higher level technology experts in the state. And if there are after-hour calls, they will handle them with that phone. And if it needs to be escalated, it will go to a duty manager. So that's what we do after hours. And then we're also monitored at the SOC. So our Security Operations Center is monitored by a Security Operations Center from the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. So they have a 24-hour operation there, and we have one of their sensors in our network, and maybe a couple counties do as well. They've made those available. It's called an Albert intrusion detection system. So we have that support as well too. So this is kind of what we look like as far as staffing and hours and things like that. So to kind of follow up on our interns. So we do operate with interns who are paid. They run through the same kind of background checks that we do as full-timers, just in case they interact with sensitive data or things of that nature. We want them to have the same kind of clearance that we have. So this is something that Dan and I, this is my boss Dan Powers down here, and this is me. And so I look a little funny in that picture. So that was the first time I had taken an airplane. So at 38 years old, That was after my first airplane ride, so I'm still kind of getting my land legs back. But it was fine. I didn't get sick or cry very much on that. So this is in Washington, D.C. We went to a scholarship for service career fair. And essentially, we set up a booth and we had some students, current students, college students come and apply for our internship. And we got a couple of really good summer interns out of this. We also have full-time interns, but this was an opportunity for us to get some kind of out-of-state experience and see, you know, how that would work. So this is a really good program. It provides scholarships for up to 3 years of support for cybersecurity undergraduate or graduate, master's degree or PhD in education. So a lot of really smart kids, you know, come through here, and we're able to leverage, you know, some of their expertise in new technology and processes and procedures and things like that. So this has been a very good resource for us. I don't know how internships are in other organizations, but this one is really hands-on, and you know, there's a lot of value here to get from these guys, so and girls. So if you know, we have done a lot of kind of talking about our internship. We've had a pretty big meeting with the MS-ISAC about it. So if you're able to, I don't know in what capacity, but interns are definitely a great source we've found. We also support cyber defense competitions, which is essentially creating a real life scenario in kind of a test room where these people can kind of go through and find you know, vulnerabilities, see how things could get hacked, and potentially, and actually what they want to do is stop things from getting hacked. So they want to defend their network. We've had a couple of really good placements in these competitions. So this is our first place in the National Cyber Defense Competition in February 2019. This is Cole Sweezy. He was a former intern. And this is Zach Monahan, also a former intern. So their team was in first place in a national competition. That's something we look for in our interns, is because that gives them real life experience, both of working on a team and also working with tools like Linux, firewalls, networks, documenting things, also, you know, making things available. So I participated in a cyber defense competition with Zach representing the state of Iowa. And our scenario was a gas station. You know, essentially we had to make sure that the pumps were running, so they were automated, you know, with computer technology, and also credit cards. We had to make sure people could make payments, and then kind of the back office accounting software, things like that. We needed to make sure that it wasn't available or vulnerable to hackers and things like that. So it gives you a lot of things to think about in a real practical environment. So we really like to look for that and support that. To also build that pipeline. It, you know, big organizations like John Deere, Wells Fargo, Principal, they also sponsor these things. So, you know, we're just kind of building that pipeline. There's been kind of a gap in the number of jobs versus the number of people available to fill those jobs. So we're trying to help with that. And I think giving these young people an opportunity to see what cybersecurity is about and actually experience it does help them see if it is a good fit for them in the future. So we also have our interns do mentoring for high school. So we have high school and college interns in the SOC, but we will go to schools. Specifically right now we do Johnston School. We have a relationship with them where we will mentor a class for the IT Olympics for Hyperstream. And so this is kind of an opportunity for the interns to learn by teaching. So they've learned from us and they've learned from cyber defense competitions, and this is them implementing what they've learned to help a younger generation learn about cybersecurity. So it is a hands-on program, really focuses on you know, teaching these high school students about cybersecurity and the fundamentals, and then preparing them for this high school level cyber defense competition called the IT Olympics. So this is kind of a team from a couple years ago in these different pictures. And we've had, so from these competitions, we've also had interns as they kind of grow up through college come into our internship program because they were kind of exposed to these kind of things through Hyperstream. So inside the SOC, this is essentially what it looks like, minus all these future cybersecurity experts. So like I said, we have done tours in the past. So this is a tour with a high school class to kind of come in and look at the screens and see how a SOC functions, and we kind of give them a tour of things. But this is essentially it. You know, I think one of the main drawing attractions of the Security Operations Center is our screens. So we have a whole bunch of screens, a lot of information flowing on them that our analysts look at on a regular basis. And we'll talk about those a little bit more in depth, but this is kind of the inside working of the SOC. So this is where our analysts would be seated. And so I thought it might be interesting to give a virtual tour of the SOC wall. So if we were together in real life, I would pass out those fancy 3D glasses that we used to get when we were younger to go to the 3D movies. They wouldn't make this in 3D, but it's kind of a cool idea. So I'll walk through these screens pretty quickly just to give you guys an overview of why there's so many and what we're looking for. So the real goal of the screens is time. You know, how fast can we catch an alert, mitigate it, start taking action, and you know, get the ball rolling to take care of it. So I'll start here on the top left. This is kind of an overview of our events. So the red are the high alerts, yellows are the mediums, and then the blue is the low. So this is kind of how we're tracking what alerts are happening and what their capacity are. And then we're tracking our open alerts over here. So we have some mediums open that we need to get closed. And then it gives more detail down here about what those alerts would be, so our analysts can look up really quickly and see where we are on those. So these clocks, we move these around a little bit, but they're kind of important to us because our systems alerts in different time zones. So it gives us just a really quick look at when the alert actually happened, and then the time zone, and then a quick translation so that we can get that done quickly. This next part, where we have kind of the green area and then the yellow area, these are alerts coming in, and the green ones tell us that they have not been identified as to what category or what threat level they are. So we can go in there, our analysts will go in, look at these, kind of evaluate the risk on those, and then determine if that's going to be a high, a medium, or a low alert. And then we'll use some artificial intelligence to also help us categorize them, because a lot of data comes in really fast. So using that AI will automate that and make it a little bit of a lighter workload. We do go in and validate that afterwards, but it kind of gives us that initial glance of what do the threats look like and what's the risk. And then the three circles we have, this is what we watch, you know, pretty quickly. As soon as this new circle here gets an alert, it will change the number. And then we have a gong noise that'll go off. So the analysts, you know, if they're working on something too deep that they don't notice, it'll give them that audio cue to look up and check it out. And then that circle will turn either red, yellow, or green based on the threat level of that alert. And that way we can give a quick look at how many new alerts we have coming in. You know, do we need more people to kind of step up and look at these? What's still open that we need to follow up on? And then what have we closed out for the day? And then our map over here, this is kind of our cyber threat map. So this will show where alerts are coming from. And in the corner here, it's not visible here, but there are IP addresses too. So we'll kind of see where things are attacking from. And then it will also color code the attack based on high, medium, or low threat level. That way we can see if a lot of alerts are coming through. It'll kind of go over things really in a highlighted way, and we can just see where those are coming from as well. And the next in the right here, we have our network map. So this has the network laid out in these squares, and this little circle here is something that is supposed to be that color. But essentially, if one of these green boxes with the white check mark went to a red box with a white X, we would know that something is going on with the network, and we need to alert the networking team immediately to get them to take a look at that and see what's happening. And then if we hover over them or highlight them or click on them, it'll give us some interactive information as to what exactly is going on with our network and where we need to look to start investigating. And then down in the bottom left, again, this is as alerts come in, we can kind of see their severity and how many there are. So we get a lot of information, and there is a lot of noise that we can categorize as threat information or as scanning activity that may not be actionable. So these numbers can get pretty large, and then we filter them down into things that we really need to take action on, so that we can move as quickly as possible to mitigate those. And you can kind of see with our graph here, these are IP addresses over a certain amount of time. And so we can kind of track and see this spike here. We need to know what's going on with that spike, because that's a lot of scanning activity or something happening. And that gives us just another cue to look at that IP address, work with our networking team, see if we need to block that at a firewall level, maybe communicate that out to our other partners like the counties or Secretary of State's office or other agencies that we're getting a lot of activity from this bad IP address, and maybe it should be blocked by their organizations too. So that helps us with some of the information sharing and just kind of, again, distilling down a lot of information into actionable items. This tool to the right of that is one of our anti-malware tools. So this is our network anti-malware tracking. And so it gives us this kind of donut graph again about where the high alerts are and what they look like. And then over here, it would give us the number of alerts and where they're coming from. So so we can dig into that and see what sensor is alerting, where it's coming from, who we need to contact and work with to mitigate that. And then next, this is our anti-malware host-based. So this is similar to an antivirus product, only instead of signatures. So antivirus works on signatures, things that are known to be bad, bad things, viruses, things like that. Anti-malware is going to work more on a behavioral level. So it could look at a PDF document that maybe says, pay this invoice now, came in that email that says, pay this invoice now, PDF document attached. You may open that PDF and it may have something that it's executing. So it could call out to the internet. Well, anti-malware is going to know that a PDF document should not be calling out to the internet, and then it would alert us in the SOC circle would turn here, and then we'd know to look here to find the machine. And then we would track that down with the IT person or whoever's in charge of that and have that machine mitigated. So that's where anti-malware and antivirus work together. So anti-malware will give us the capability to see the behavior, and then we could contain that machine if we needed to, so the infection couldn't spread throughout the network. But then we need antivirus to kind of come in and clean it up. Or the machine would have to be rebuilt from an image, if the IT person, if that's how they kind of function. So the next screen, this shows the square. These squares are our customers. So these are state agencies. We also have a screen for this on counties. So that is another indicator of where the alert is coming from. So they're all green right now, but if we get an alert in, one of these squares is going to turn red, and then we know which customer we're working with. A lot of this information comes through in email alerts as well too, if we don't have the screens up, but the screens just help us be that much faster. When we're in person, we can look at that and see, exactly where the threat is coming from. Our next screen, again, it takes some of our information and filters it down a little bit. So this shows that we have one low alert that is open that we need to follow up on, and then 2 medium alerts that are open that we need to follow up on as well. We really watch this for when there are red alerts in here. We try not to let that happen because we want to handle those as quickly as possible. Mediums and low, they may already have been mitigated by another tool, or they may not be as severe as the highs. So we work on those kind of in order, and then we circle back to those just to make sure that there's no threat, that we need to follow up on there. And then this last chart, this is kind of where we monitor our intrusion detection systems. So we'll know if one goes down, kind of where it's at by the charts and the last time that it checked in, and how it's functioning. So that gives us kind of some insight into our tools to make sure that they're available and still working. So that's kind of what the SOC wall looks like. We've got a couple more screens. This is evolving, so we change this as needed. It's got a lot of flexibility that we can do with that. But essentially, it's just getting our tools up on the screens, to give us that visibility. Being at home, we do kind of miss that, but we compensate for that in other ways. We do, have all these screens available to us, just not up on a wall. We've taken home multiple monitors to kind of take care of that as much as we can. But that's kind of the nice thing about the screens is you have everything single pane of glass that you can look up at and see what's going on. So these are some of the services that the SOC provides. We do everything from antivirus through web application firewalls and in between. These are just the ones that we have, kind of available. And then some of these also go over into the counties, but these are mostly our state agency tools. I went kind of fast on that one, but you can just kind of tell that each one of these has some kind of a function in cybersecurity. So we briefly talked about the MSISAC and how they monitor the SOC with their Security Operations Center. So I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit more. I mentioned the Albert sensor, so that's their network monitoring service that we participate in. So we actually have a device inside our network at the state where they can monitor for malicious activity, and then they will also alert us of those things. They also have some visibility into county and other local government things just throughout their partnership that we're able to leverage as well. So they may see credentials, that have been compromised and things of that nature that they'll alert through us, and then we'll pass that information on as well. They are 24 hours, 24/7, which is very good. We definitely leverage that. They also have some tools that we use. They have what they call MCAP, the Malicious Code Analysis Platform. So sometimes people may receive an email and they're just not sure about it. So rather than letting it sit there or clicking a link, they can send that to us and we can put it into kind of a detonation chamber, if you will, or a test area, a sandbox, where we can click on that link, open the attachment, and then see what it would do. And then we'll know if that was indeed, a bad email, a bad link, the attachment. But we've got it in a sandboxed environment where we can see what it would do. And that gives us more information on it as well. And we also subscribe to their intelligence feeds and advisories. We get information about threats, vulnerabilities, attacks, and compromises. And we get a weekly malware indicators of compromise list, which mostly consists of IP addresses. And then we can use that information to correlate with our systems and see if we can find where we may have those indicators, block them or remove them. So we're kind of proactively kind of hunting through our tools to make sure nothing has been missed, and that if somebody else has seen a compromise, that we know about that information and we can utilize the information from it as well. And then at the bottom, this is a picture of their SOC. So before we implemented our Security Operations Center, leadership went out and took a look at others to see what was working well and what we could kind of mimic and follow up on. So this is what the MSISAC has. They've got, you can see their threat map is kind of the center stage for them. They've got their information down here scrolling through the bottom. Similar to ours, you can see where the attacks are coming from. And then they've got more kind of graphs in this area, and then some data that they find valuable for their analysts. So that's what it looks like for them. So recently, or throughout the years, maybe you guys have participated in tabletop exercises or incidents response plan workshops, things like that. We also do those things on our end too. So one that we participate in is called Cyberstorm. So this is a national cyber exercise. It lasts 3 days, and it's led by Department of Homeland Security. It's had more than 2,000 members. It could be from private industry, federal government, international. And basically what it does is simulate a large-scale cyber attack, and then we respond to it. So it's kind of it's a play from your desk thing. This year we had some counties participate as well too, and other agencies to see what would happen if we had an event. How do we react? What are the responses? How can we do better at information sharing and things of that nature? So it's a really valuable exercise. We learned a lot from it in the SOC about how we could test our tools, how we could provide information, and respond, faster to things that happen. So I think this is every 2 years or so. So we've participated in a few of these. And this year was impacted by the pandemic as well. And then we had some counties participating that were affected by the derecho. So that was tough to get it off the ground. It was initially scheduled to take place in May. They rescheduled to August. And then again, we were kind of impacted by some things, but we still got a lot of good things out of it. So we're going to try to make that more available, to people who want to participate and see the value in it. And then, we can share some of the value that we get out of it as well. But a very, very helpful exercise for us. So as far as services for the counties from the Security Operations Center, so the OCIO is able to provide these services for the Homeland Security Grant Program. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So what those services currently are, intrusion detection systems, IDS, we've got a lot of those out there. We have over 80 counties participating, and then we have some that I still need to work on and deploy. Again, because of remote work and things of that nature, we've been a little bit slower on getting these out, but we partnered with Secretary of State's office and some other individuals, Iowa State Association of Counties, county auditors, to try and get the word out that these services are there and available, through the grant funds. So we've had a lot of participation and value out of this, so we really appreciate that. And so I wanted to kind of list them out here. Enterprise Vulnerability Management System. So this is a device that looks for the vulnerabilities in our networks and then provides a report and kind of gives a score so that where patch management needs to be focused on, because there's a lot of vulnerabilities that come out on a regular basis, and there's a database of those vulnerabilities, and it's in the thousands every year. So in the past few years, it's gone over 10,000 easily with Internet of Things devices, connected to the network, like smart thermostats, cameras, other things like that. They can be vulnerable too, and what the bad actors are looking for is any kind of vulnerability that could give them a little bit of room, low-hanging fruit that they can kind of pivot from. So we try to get that information out so that we know where those vulnerabilities are and to get them patched, because that is still very high risk. It's one of the main ways that we are infected. So that's been a very useful system. And then our anti-malware, so network-based and host-based. So we kind of talked about how it looks at the behavior of, let's say, a document, for example, a PDF that starts calling out to the internet for some reason. It'll alert us and let us know about that. So that is very easy to deploy. It's very useful. We have over 27,000 machines protected by this. So we want to make sure that we're getting full coverage, though. So we'll continue to try to do like a reconciliation report. I may send you a report that says we see 20 machines for your county are protected. Are we covering everything? And then that's where we may need you to reply with, we actually have 50 machines, so can we get that deployed to those? So that's where we'll kind of work together on a reconciliation to make sure that we get complete coverage on that. So security awareness training and phishing tests. So we've had security awareness training for a while now. We had a product from SANS, which was called Securing the Human. We have a new product from Proofpoint, and this one is a little bit different. So Securing the Human had the videos that you could watch. This one is kind of has some graphics, but it's not video based. It has some reading, some material in there. So you kind of have to read through the slides and things like that. A lot of good information. So if you've taken the SANS training, but not the Proofpoint yet, definitely let me know. I'll give you my contact information at the end of this, and I'll help you get set up with that. And then we have phishing tests through Proofpoint as well. So Phishing is a huge problem, and it just continues because the bad actors have just gotten really good at kind of the social engineering aspect of it, making it look like it was an email that came from my boss that said, hey, click this link to pay this invoice that's late, or you have a delivery from UPS, click this link to track it, those kind of things. And really it comes down to the volume of email too. I mean, when I come in the morning, I'm looking at a ton of email, and we're trying to go through it as responsibly as possible, respond to people. So they're kind of sneaking them in there. They know that we've got a huge volume of emails. They know what kind of things trigger a reaction. So having these phishing tests kind of help us just be aware of that, that this is something that they do on a regular basis, and this is most likely something that's going to impact you. You will get a phishing email at some point. So if you have these tests and kind of raise that awareness, that's a really good thing. At a conference, Mid-American Energy, who does our energy around Des Moines, they do phishing tests daily on their workers. So I thought that was interesting. That seems like a lot, but maybe we're glad they do that so that energy is not interrupted, the electricity stays on, and the gas is working and stuff like that. So so maybe intermittently having these phishing tests can help us have more awareness around that kind of thing. So those are our main ones currently. We do some pilot testing of other tools that we could offer. So at the same time, all of these tools are things that we use in our state agencies too. So we are covered by these things as well. So we're finding the tools that are kind of working for us, and then we're extending those to make sure that everybody can kind of get the value out of them. So one thing we started doing as well was web content filtering. So we did a pilot with a few counties. We do that now currently with a tool, and it's really helpful. Essentially what it does is, let's say that phishing email gets through, it's got a link, and you click on the link and it takes you to a malicious website. So filtering would block that and knock that down and essentially not let you get to that website. So that's another layer of protection that would help us do that. So the issue that came up with this one was essentially funding. So this one's very expensive. The model to roll it out didn't look like it would be in the best interest, financially. So as we were rolling out the pilot, what happened was MSISAC came in, and they were actually doing a web content filtering pilot as well. So we would have to use grant funding from Homeland Security Grant Program to fund that web content filtering. But there is one already that exists from the MSISAC, and this one would be free to the counties and local government currently. So I'm sure they're using some grant money somewhere, but it would not be specifically state of Iowa grant money, if that makes sense. So we decided to kind of promote this with the MSISAC. So they're using a product called Akamai web content filtering, where for the state we were using a Cisco Umbrella product. Pretty much the same thing. They do a lot of the same stuff. They've kind of simplified this a little bit at the MSISAC. They've got some more resources, and they've done a really good job of filtering down how this would work for everybody and how to scale it. So essentially, like we talked about, here's the computer in the county that I would be sitting at, maybe clicking on that badsite.com link. It would go through a DNS server, then it would go to this Akamai server, and Akamai would kind of compare that against a list of bad websites, and then say, well, that's a bad one, you shouldn't go there. And then it's going to return it and say, you can't go there because it's blocked. Now, if it's legitimate and it was blocked, then we would tell Akamai, you need to add this to the list. This is an okay website. So they've got a built-in way to do that as well too. And then they're kind of monitoring those things to make a log of everything and have that in their security operations center. And then they'll provide some reports going back that we can kind of look at and see where this activity is coming from and hopefully learn from it. So this worked out really well. We do have the proof of concept that web filtering is a good thing, web content filtering, and we could do that at the state level. However, funding, it makes that very difficult because that would really stretch that. But we have this offering from MSISAC, which is funded elsewhere and that we can take advantage of. So I would definitely recommend, if you are able to, or if you could talk to your IT person about this, or let me know if you need some more information. I'll get that link out to you guys through here, and sign up for this, because this would be a really good resource. And I think we have some counties participating in it already, and we are looking at having state agencies protected by this particular product as well too. So I'm going to take just a second, one, because I talk really fast and I need to catch my breath a little bit, and then two, to let you guys let that soak in and see if you have any questions so far, or maybe if I'm missing any, because I don't know how to check them. I'll take that break, and maybe Beth can help me out and see if I have something that I'm missing so far.
We don't have any questions so far, but now would be a good time to submit them if anybody does have one.
Okay, yeah. So when that happens, I usually tell my boss that I explain everything so well that everybody understands it, and there's never any questions. So I'll take that, but if you really do have questions, we can do that. I'll wait another maybe 20 seconds or so. We'll have a little awkward silence. Okay, guys, I'm going to continue with the fancy presentation here. So briefly, we've kind of talked about the Homeland Security Grant Program. So basically, we as the state, OCIO, apply for this grant every year. So we've done this for about 10 years now. We've successfully been funded each year. It takes a lot of work to kind of get through all the details of how this would work, kind of laying out our plan. We go through their system and budget and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty intense process, but definitely worth it. This year, I can say we're still kind of in the process, so a lot of things have impacted that as well too in the world now. It looks like we are, going to continue to get the grants. I can tell you that last year we got over $600,000. That's what supports those products that we talked about earlier. This is a really good program for us. It's been really good for the counties too. So we're going to continue to do that. We've had a lot of help from Homeland Security on how to, make this really work. And cybersecurity is it's kind of a small piece of this actually. So there's a lot of other areas involved in this too, but this is kind of becoming, well, it is a critical function, cybersecurity. So we've got a section in here, and it's kind of through emergency management too. So we try to go to emergency management events as well. They can be very helpful people when something does happen, even in the cybersecurity realm. I've worked with a couple of emergency managers that are very good at response and how to organize people and follow a plan and make things work well. So I can kind of see how these things go hand in hand, and I'm really glad they do. It's good to be at those meetings, to meet those people and know that we have that, that resource to leverage as well too. So this next couple slides are about the money piece of the Homeland Security Grant Program. So I'm going to call it a benefits statement. I don't know if I like that phrase yet. This is kind of my Goodwill Hunting chalkboard of how I came up with the formula of how the money is spent and what it looks like. So that's my equation, and it led me to this document. So what I did was kind of lay out the cost of, when I say appliance, that's essentially a device that goes on the network. Support is kind of the maintenance and updates of that device. And then there's some other costs in there. Central management infrastructure. This is where the OCIO would be essentially donating our time. We don't benefit from any of the grant money in the form of staff or infrastructure, or things like that. So we kind of give our time into that. So that's our portion of it, is the central management infrastructure is what I call it. So bear with me. These numbers are a little rough. They're based on an entity that has 100 users. So I'll walk through this and we'll see if this makes sense. So let's take vulnerability management. So this service scans for vulnerabilities in hardware, software, firmware, and then we notify the system owners of those vulnerabilities, and then they do the remediation, and if help is needed, then we try to do that as well. So the cost for that is a component of a network appliance. So this is kind of like a server that would sit on the network. That costs roughly $5,200. And I say roughly because we order about 100 of these at a time. So we get that bulk discount, we'll call it. And then, my boss, Dan Powers, will sometimes say to, the vendor, we should get another discount. We've got good relationships, we go through the procurement process, and that takes a lot of work too. So sometimes we get some other discounts for that as well too. So that $5,200 is paid for by the grant. So that's a zero cost to the counties. So that's essentially what it could potentially cost if a county or entity did that on their own without grant funds, or if the grant money went away. So I think I see a question. I'm going to try to look at it real quick here. Thanks, Joel. So I'm going to skip that for a second. So network appliance support. So again, we're basing this on 100 devices for this group, this entity. That'd be $1,200. So that's by the year, $1,200 a year. That's paid for by the grant, no cost to the county. And then that would be a cost to the county or organization if the grant funds went away and if they decided to continue a service like that. So then for that, they also charge for network scanning per IP address and per scanning support. So $500 for 100 machines again, and then $100 for support on those scans, again covered by the grant. So that would be a cost that would be incurred to the entity. And then OCIO's portion of this, the central management, we've got a spreadsheet, and we call it Prem's Magic Spreadsheet. That's our friend in accounting. His name's Prem, and he put kind of like the chalkboards that we were looking at. He has this kind of situation going on in a spreadsheet to calculate what it costs as far as time and resources for OCIO. So an entity of 100 employees or 100 machines, let's say that 100 machines, it costs about $2,000 for OCIO to support that. So that's I kind of made a mistake here. That's not really paid for by the grant. So I'm gonna highlight that with my laser pointer here. That would be a cost to OCIO. So let's change this a little bit. Instead of about $10,000, we should be looking at about $7,000, because if the grant fund went away, probably wouldn't have this cost, at least from OCIO. You may have it from a vendor or somewhere else. So that's why I say this is kind of loosely based on some figures and a little bit of speculation too. So that's where it gets a little tricky on how to exactly come up with a dollar amount of what a county benefits from this. And then it's hard, we don't even quantify if we've patched a vulnerability that leads to, this entity not getting hacked. We can't really quantify that number because we don't have any solid facts, from that either. So that's what makes it a little tricky as well too. For intrusion detection, so monitoring network traffic for malicious activity, malware, and web exploits. The network appliance, again, that's about $5,000. That's covered by the grant, no charge to the county or entity. There is a rule set. So this is essentially the list of bad things that the device is comparing the network traffic against. So that's about a $400 subscription paid for by the grant. And then OCIO, this is about $1,600 worth of time and resources that we provide for that service. So again, let's disregard that mistake by me and say that it's about $6,000 a year for this service for 100 devices. And then our host-based malware detection. So this one is per endpoint. So again, we've got 100 devices we're talking about at $5 a device, $500. And then the central management is about $1,200. So $500 paid for by the grant. And then this part is kind of OCIO's portion. This one would be a little tricky. You would also need potentially some kind of device, even though they do have a cloud version available that would make that more web-based. So these costs, could be pretty close to that as far as 100 machines for a year for that service. So I know that's kind of rough. That's still a work in progress, but I wanted to give you guys at least some numbers of what this looks like as far as dollars. So potentially, let's say between $10,000 and $15,000 for an entity of 100 devices, getting that benefit not paid for out of their budget, paid for through the grant. So so that's still really good. There's a lot of things you could do with that money, but it is also good to have some kind of cybersecurity budget, just in case things do have a bad day. We have all these things in place to have those layers so that that doesn't happen. Checks and balances, a layered defense. But there's a lot stacked up against us. The bad actors don't have any rules, that they're subject to, and we're strictly playing defense on this end. So they've got an advantage, really. So if there's any questions about that one, let me know. So another report that we're working on and trying to make better before we start sending these out is a monthly county report that would show the status of the system. So sometimes I hear, we're pretty sure we have your services, but we haven't heard anything from you guys, or we haven't seen any alerts. That could be a good thing. Hopefully that's just because, maybe you've got a clean network, things are working like they should be, and no attacks. Or it could be maybe one of the systems is not functioning properly, or it's down. So what we're trying to do is reconcile that on more of a regular basis. So monthly, and maybe even more than that. But as a standard monthly report, we want to send you that, yes, your systems are functional. We're getting good reports off of them. You do have enough anti-malware installed on all of your devices, hopefully. Security awareness training, everybody has been trained for the year. We participated in those kind of things. And then the alerts that we've received and what they look like. And then your contacts. So if any contacts have changed, we want to know that so that we have the appropriate people to get a hold of if there is an incident or an alert or somebody that needs to be notified. So this is part of the outreach that we want to do. We want to do a better job of is making sure that we're getting you engaged on a more regular basis, so that you know how things are going, how things look on our end, and that things are progressing as they should be. So a lot of this for the SOC is about partnership. So we have a lot of partners. We have a lot of state agencies, including Secretary of State's office. We have the National Guard, Homeland Security, State Association of Counties, the auditors, a lot of people really pitching in here. And that's really the way that we can do this, is by having those partnerships, because that's what it takes. And I think this is a really important program from the ICIT, the Iowa Counties Information Technology Group. This program, goes out, I believe it's called Paying IT for the County Technology Assistance Program. This is where you get a group of IT directors from the counties with a lot of expertise and experience, specifically in county government IT, which is a whole different animal in itself. This is a really good, I don't know, I think assessment is a good word, but they will look at things, with the county, make suggestions, recommendations. They could find maybe issues where IT budgeting is not quite where it could be, staffing potentially, policy, compliance, password situations, things like that. So they've worked, so I kind of stole this off of their website, but worked with quite a few counties and completed, assistance there and helped, find where improvements could be made. And I think really this would be a benefit to all counties. We can always improve. This is just a really good way to get a return on investment that you can't get anywhere else. I can't even think of some entity that could provide, the kind of information that this would really give you to see, where your technology stands and, how things could be different or better or improved. And even if things are going, well, it's good to take a look at things too. Maybe you're transitioning. I know, they worked with one county that was transitioning an IT director into retirement kind of thing. That's a good way to have kind of a third party come in and assist with that and help, because there's a lot of stuff going on, in our counties IT wise, and we need to protect that data. We need to keep things moving. So this is another really good resource that should be leveraged. I've gotten to tag along on a few of these, and that's really helped me understand county IT and county government and appreciate it more. It's kind of like one of those things where you grow up, and you're paying your own bills and doing your own thing. You appreciate what your parents were doing for you. Now this really gave me an eye opener to appreciate what county government is really doing, for the citizens, and it's a lot, and on a very small budget and those kind of things. So that's my way of just saying that I appreciate, what you guys are doing, your work in the counties, and I know it's a lot. So leverage as much of these resources as you can, because that's what's really going to help us move things forward. Okay, I'm going to take just a quick break, not a quick break, just a quick second to check again and make sure that I'm not missing any questions, and then we'll go into the MOU part of this.
There are none right now.
Okay, thank you. So recently, thanks to Iowa State Association of Counties, and again, the ICIT group and our Attorney General's office, an MOU was drafted, so a Memorandum of Understanding,
Jesse, I think we lost your audio.
increase the coverage of the service if this helps explain more of what we're trying to do and then fully leverage those grant funds. Again, thanks to the Iowa State Association of Counties for helping us send that out recently. So we just want to get those signed so that and read. It is like a 22-page PDF document. A lot of good information in there, so don't let that scare you away. But it kind of goes through each section of how we work together in this, because we went through this really fast deploying the services. Once the Secretary of State kind of helped us promote these things and let everybody know, how things were going. We had counties sign up really quickly to get the cybersecurity protection because we had a lot of election security issues and things like that. So we were deploying things just kind of as fast as we could. We didn't write up the MOU ahead of time, but I think that gave us kind of more information that we could draw from to actually write a better MOU kind of after we had some things deployed and out into the counties and made sure this was something that was viable, that was going to work, that we could keep getting funding and stuff like that. So this is really, I think, good timing for this document. And it's just important for us to know, what each entity is doing. And it's a lot easier than having, Jesse come out to the Board of Supervisors meeting and kind of stutter around my way of what these things are and how they work and have my kind of silly presentations. We've got it on paper. It's something we can refer back to and kind of hold each other accountable, to what our parts of the relationship are. So again, I would happily go through and read each page if that is so desired on this meeting. I don't think anybody wants that. So that's kind of my my slide on the MOU. I think there should be questions about this, and there probably are some. So again, I'm going to take just another quick break to see if there are, and give you a couple seconds and see if that kind of soaked in a little bit.
None are in right now, but we can wait a couple more seconds to see.
Okay, sure thing. Okay, everybody, and maybe you haven't had a chance to review that yet either. It was just sent out, so that's fine too. We did put a date on it of November 1st. I know that's coming up really fast. It's going to be here before anybody knows it. So if you're able to sign and return that to me, that'd be great. If you have questions, you can also email me those as well too, and we can kind of work together to figure those things out. So I wanted to kind of wrap up on National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So this is really good for us. We've had the governor participate in signing our proclamation, visiting the SOC and taking a tour of it. She's very supportive in cybersecurity and in our efforts, so we appreciate that a lot. One thing about this month is that there's a lot of information and it comes out really fast. So I just kind of wanted to distill a little bit of it down and go through a few slides, which I stole from the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign. They said I could do it, so it's okay. Basically, just kind of covering malware in general. Some of the examples there are things that we've heard before: the viruses, ransomware, things like that. It's just malicious software, trying to do damage or disable networks, giving somebody access to our computers and our networks and things like that, to commit some kind of cyber crime or disrupt our regular activities. So malware, again, it's something we really want to stay on top of. It can cause a lot of problems, and the tools that we have in place are to try to mitigate that, and get ahead of those things. Ransomware is a big one. This is really popular in the media just because of the way it can cripple an entire city. Colorado has seen this, with their DOT, Atlanta, other places that have been in the news. It can just, take things down to where there's no activity, nothing functioning, and that's really a bad thing. And we've heard a lot about these things too from other entities and organizations being hit. So essentially, making hardware, data, software inaccessible until a ransom has been paid, or if you've could recover in another way. So these are some of the examples that got Crypto Locker, Winlock, Crypto Wall. We've seen these going through the SOC, and we've assisted with helping on some of these. And it's a lot of work. It's really difficult. So the things that we try to do, are to prevent and defend from those. But it can still happen. Having all the tools in place, there's still a way to get through there. Unfortunately, because we all have email access, some of these things are just a click away. But we need that. That's the way the world communicates. So, we can't lock everything down, unfortunately or fortunately. So bots, essentially, not all these things are bad. Using the search engine, we get help from bots to find things that we're looking for, to Google some stuff. But there's automation with that. And then with everything that is good or convenient, bad actors will find a way to make it bad. And so they're automating, their tasks to make it easier. So in the past, we usually put up slides of, a faceless person in a hooded sweatshirt at a keyboard, doing some really bad things. Well, they don't really even need to be at the keyboard that much anymore. They're not coding, malicious bad things. A bad person with malicious intent can just go to essentially an online store of bad things and purchase, these things, and then just point them at the entity that they want to attack, and kind of a point and click type thing. So it doesn't have to be that person that knows a lot of coding, has a lot of experience. It just has to be a bad person that can take advantage of things that are automated and that are made easier for them. And then the other person behind that are just monetizing, some of their efforts, some of their code and stuff like that. So this is unfortunately, the nature of things at the moment. Phishing is a big one. We talk about it a lot because it keeps happening. I mean, this is just an easy way, for the bad people, again, to attack. And they look really good. They are very good attacks of phishing emails, that could come from a seemingly reliable source. They can do a thing called spoofing, where they impersonate the email of a legitimate person and send you that email. Kind of could go through your contacts and see who you communicate with most, and find a way to kind of trick us into clicking on a link or opening an attachment or giving away some kind of sensitive information. So I think we know about these things. We've heard it enough. My recommendation would be to definitely get the phishing tests in place, just to give us that much more awareness of it. So contact me if you want to do that. And then other avenues that are attacked are these Internet of Things devices. That's kind of a newer term coming out for smart devices, like we talked about the thermostat, your vehicle with the GPS stuff, gaming consoles like the Xbox or the PlayStation. Those things can be connected to the network with a credit card too, to purchase things. Medical equipment is on networks, industrial systems. All these things are more and more being connected to our networks. And with that, they also have vulnerabilities. So a bad actor is going to look at these devices, see if they can take advantage of one, kind of leverage a vulnerability, and then pivot onto the network from that. Or they could look for a vendor that you might work with, say for the HVAC system. They probably need a username and password access to your network to maintain those things. What if they use a really easy password? Or what if they have too much access and that's not known? You can control so much, but then as the scope gets bigger, then you lose more of that control. So those things are happening as well too, and the remote access of stuff too. So now with the pandemic, people have gone home. Well, now there's the whole home network situation. What does that look like? Are we using two-factor authentication and VPN, to get back into sensitive things? Are our home routers patched and up to date? Do we know how to do that? What is our ISP providing for security? What's on the laptop? Is it encrypted that you're using? What if something's stolen? Can somebody get the data off of that thing? We could go on and on. We could cover a lot of that stuff. I'll try not to get too in depth into those things. I think I've already gone over. But I wanted to end on this. I appreciate the time and being able to present here. It's always helpful for me to talk about these things and get some information out. Here's my email address highlighted here. My phone number here. You can call me, email me anytime. We do have the Twitter, so that's my number. My only reason really for having Twitter is to follow OCIO. We have a public information officer who is relatively new now, so she's going to start helping us more professionally post information and share it. So keep an eye on that. That's how we will, communicate on a larger level to the general public. And then soc@iowa.gov, you can always reach out there, and our SOC number here, 515-725-1296, and then our website. And with that, that is what I have for today. So if we have time, I'll stick around for questions. If not, I really appreciate being a part of this.
We don't have any questions right now, but thank you, Jesse, for presenting today. There's a lot of great information, and I also want to thank our members for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the webinar and found it helpful. And I still don't see any questions, so feel free to reach out to Jesse or me, and I can forward questions to him. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.